You're tuning in because, let's face it, the ABCTE PTK exam, that's a big one, right? And we're here to give you that roadmap, that structured approach, so you can walk into that test feeling like you got this. This deep dive is all about what intermediate learners really need to focus on for this professional teaching knowledge exam.
Exactly, you've got it. What they really want to see is, do you understand what effective teaching really is? Like those core strategies you'll be using day to day, how to make sure your classroom is a place where learning can happen, and of course the most effective ways to actually help your students learn and grow.
Right, it's all about applying what you know in the classroom, yeah.
Absolutely. It's one thing to know the theory, but the PTK exam is going to test you on both showing your knowledge in those multiple choice questions and then really applying it in a written essay. So you really need a good grasp of, pedagogical knowledge, that's the art and science of teaching, but you also need to be able to show how you would use it in real situations that you'd encounter in a classroom.
So it's not just knowing the stuff, it's knowing how to use it.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got a lot to cover. Where do we even begin?
Well, I think the most important thing is to have a solid plan, right? We can't just jump in blindly.
That makes sense. So, what would you say are the absolute must-knows for someone prepping for this exam?
I'd say there are three key areas that we need to focus on. First, you need to really get to know the exam itself inside and out. Second, consistent practice is key. You can't just cram the night before and expect to ace it. And third, you need to equip yourself with some effective strategies for both studying and taking the test.
Okay, I like it. Three key areas. Understand the exam, practice consistently, and use effective strategies. Let's break that down, starting with understanding the ABCTE PTK exam. What does that actually mean?
Well, the first thing I would recommend is to grab a copy of the official ABCTE PTK exam guide. That's your Bible. It outlines everything you need to know about the exam's content and format.
Makes sense, straight from the source. So, what kind of stuff are we talking about here? What are the big content areas?
Right, so you've got four major content areas to get familiar with. First up is instructional strategies. This is all about the methods and techniques you'll use to teach different subjects and concepts.
So, how you actually deliver the information. Got it. What's next?
Then you have classroom management. This covers how you create a positive and productive learning environment, how you establish rules and routines, deal with disruptions, and make sure everyone feels safe and respected.
Oh, that's a big one. Classroom management can make or break a teacher. Okay, what else is on the list?
Next is assessment. It's all about how you measure student learning. This includes different types of assessments, formative and summative, and how you can use those results to inform your instruction and make sure your students are progressing.
Makes sense. You got to know if your students are actually learning. What's the last area?
The final content area is professional development, which is all about your own growth as an educator. It covers things like reflecting on your teaching, seeking out professional development opportunities, and collaborating with colleagues.
So it's not just about the students, it's about you as a teacher always learning and growing.
You got it.
All right, so knowing the content areas is a good start. But what about the scoring system? How does that work, and why is it important?
Understanding the scoring system is crucial. It can help you prioritize your study time and focus on the areas that carry more weight. For example, the essay section usually accounts for a significant portion of the overall score, so you definitely want to make sure you're well prepared for that.
Right. Okay, so we know the content, we know the scoring system. What's the next step?
The next step is to gather all the right study materials. Beyond the official guide we talked about earlier, you'll need to find some good resources to help you really dig deep into the content.
Yeah, for sure. What would you recommend?
Well, first off, ABCTE offers some really great study guides and practice tests on their website. Definitely utilize those.
Okay, official resources are always a good bet. What about other study materials?
You can also find some really helpful prep books and online courses out there. Just do a little research, read some reviews, and see what others have found useful.
And what about practice exams? Are those important?
Absolutely essential. Practice exams give you a feel for the format of the real exam and help you identify any areas where you need to brush up. Plus, they can help you get used to the time constraints of the actual test.
So, official resources, prep books, online courses, and practice exams. Got it. Any other study tools you'd recommend?
Sometimes it's the simple things that make a big difference. Flashcards and summary notes can be really effective for memorizing key terms and concepts.
Yeah, especially for those things you just need to drill into your memory.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of connecting with other educators who are also preparing for the PTK exam. Joining online forums or study groups can give you a chance to ask questions, share tips, and get some moral support.
Yeah, it's always good to have that community, that feeling that you're not in this alone. Okay, so we've got our study materials sorted. Now, let's talk about putting together a study plan. What's a good way to structure our study time?
I'd recommend setting aside a dedicated 4 to 6 weeks for studying. It might seem like a lot, but trust me, it's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared.
Makes sense. So how do we break down the content into manageable chunks?
A good approach is to focus on one content area per week. So for example, you can spend week 1 focusing on classroom management, week 2 on instructional strategies, and so on.
Okay, so breaking it down week by week, focusing on one area at a time. And I guess we should be incorporating those practice tests we talked about earlier into our study plan, right?
Absolutely. In fact, I'd recommend taking a timed practice test at least once a week. This will not only help you assess your progress, but also get you used to the pressure of answering questions under time constraints.
Okay, so regular practice tests are a must. Anything else we should keep in mind when creating our study plan?
Yeah, make sure you're also scheduling in time to review your mistakes. Don't just glance over the answers you got wrong. Really dig in and figure out why you missed them. Was it a lack of understanding of the concept, a misinterpretation of the question, or something else? Once you know why you're making mistakes, you can adjust your study approach accordingly.
That makes a lot of sense. Don't just practice, but really learn from your mistakes. Okay, let's move on to the essay section. This part can feel really daunting for a lot of people. Do you have any specific tips for tackling the essay portion of the PTK exam?
Yeah, the essay can definitely feel intimidating, but with a good strategy, you can definitely conquer it.
Okay, I like that attitude. So what's the key to success here?
First off, make sure you understand the typical structure of the essay question. The prompts usually ask you to apply your pedagogical knowledge to a real-world scenario.
So they're not just looking for theoretical knowledge. They want to see how you'd actually handle things in a classroom.
Exactly. So a good way to prepare for this is to practice writing responses to potential prompts using real-world scenarios.
Okay, so practice is key, as always. Any other tips?
Yeah, definitely. A great tool for organizing your essay is the STAR method. Have you heard of that one?
I don't think so. Tell me more.
It stands for situation, task, action, and result. Basically, when you're responding to an essay prompt, you start by describing the situation, then the task you needed to accomplish, the actions you took, and finally the results of those actions.
Okay, I see how that would help to structure your answer and make sure you're covering all the bases.
Exactly. It also forces you to think about the situation from all angles and really demonstrate your understanding of the concepts involved.
So understand the structure of the question, practice writing responses, and use the STAR method to organize your answer. Got it. What about the writing itself? Any tips there?
Absolutely. Aim for clear, coherent writing that really shows the depth of your understanding. Remember, a well-structured essay that directly addresses the prompt using specific examples is going to stand out.
So clarity, coherence, and depth, those are the key ingredients.
You got it.
All right, we've done the prep work, we've practiced like crazy, we know the content, and we have a strategy for the essay. Now it's test day. What are some essential test-taking strategies to keep in mind when we're actually sitting in that exam room?
Okay, so you're in the hot seat. Deep breath, you got this.
Deep breaths, yeah. Okay, what should we focus on first?
First things first, read each question carefully, especially those multiple choice ones. It's easy to rush through and miss important details. And don't be afraid to use the process of elimination to narrow down your options.
Right, eliminate those obviously wrong answers first. Makes sense. What about time management?
Time management is huge. You don't want to get bogged down on one question and then run out of time for the rest. Keep an eye on the clock, and if you're really stuck, move on and come back to it later if you have time.
Don't let one question throw off your whole game. Yeah. And what about the essay? Any last-minute tips for that?
For the essay, I highly recommend taking a few minutes to outline your response before you start writing. This will help you organize your thoughts and make sure your essay flows logically.
Outline before you write. Got it. Any other words of wisdom for test day?
Yeah, probably the most important one. Stay calm and trust yourself. You've put in the work, you know your stuff, believe in yourself, and you'll do great.
I love it. Confidence is key. This has been such a helpful breakdown. Any final thoughts for our listeners as they embark on this PTK journey?
My last piece of advice would be to really prioritize consistency in your study routine. Make it a habit, even if it's just for a short period each day. And don't forget to take care of yourself. Get enough sleep, eat healthy, and manage your stress levels. Remember, you're not just studying for an exam, you're preparing for a rewarding career.
So true. Take care of yourself. You've got this. And here's one final thought to chew on as you finalize your prep. Think about those different educational philosophies you've learned about, you know, constructivism versus behaviorism, stuff like that. How do those philosophies connect to the practical strategies that the PTK exam emphasizes? Thinking about it that way might give you a deeper perspective and help you tie everything together. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.